Okay, it is 6 o'clock on April 23rd, 2026, and I call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Town of Underhill Select Board. First on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Edits? Hearing none, the agenda is posted. We will follow. Next on our agenda is opening public comment. And just want to remind everybody that wants to speak in public comment, this is the time for anything we have on the agenda for anyone in the public to chime in and say their piece or speak and offer input. When the meeting starts and we take in any individual items, they're not open to the public. This is a meeting in the public, but not of the public. So if anyone has feedback or thoughts they want to share, that is the time to do it in the opening or the closing public comment section. So let's now convene opening public comment. Is there anybody to comment?
I have some public comment.
Excellent. Anton, introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Anton Kelsey. I live on Pleasant Valley Road, and I'm chair of the Recreation Committee. I have a brief public comment on the sidewalk. I was at the meeting a couple of weeks ago, bringing up and asking for some clarifications on some things, and I just have a couple of points, questions that I think can then later be addressed when Brad gives a report later on in the agenda. But I'm just throwing in a few things I'd like the select board to consider as we move forward with the sidewalks. First is, I think one of the things that's, I won't say raising confusion, but just raising questions with this is a little bit based on, you know, how the sidewalk project in the center unfolded. And part of it is a lot of this got kicked off because ARPA gave some money for the sidewalk project. And one of the questions that I had after reflecting on the meeting 2 weeks ago was what the overarching sidewalk, you know, plan is for the center and some of the surrounding areas. And what I'm not sure is if the select board adopted any of the studies or reports that were done over the last 5 or 6 years. You know, the CCRPC did a study. There were a few things related to, you know, River Road and some of those pieces. And I just don't know what the whole big picture is. And I think as we consider moving forward and thinking about some of the ideas that Brad's going to put forth later, is making sure they all fit into whatever the bigger picture is. And I think related to that, just to remind folks, is, you know, in the town plan, transportation goal number 3 talks about promoting safe use of alternate forms of transportation, including cycling lanes and sidewalks. And then there's also Act 34, which is the Complete Streets Act for Vermont, which requires towns to always consider other forms of traffic when we do different road projects. So I think that all said is, you know, what is the master plan idea, and is that being considered, or is it clear as we decide how to move forward? So that was kind of idea or thought number 1 I had. The second one, which I did bring up 2 weeks ago, is just related to how best, you know, whenever the larger picture idea is out there, what's the best way to make sure that we're staying on track with that? And I think what we all know is doing sidewalks and cycling lanes takes a lot of time, years, a lot of money. And if it's worth doing something like having a small committee just to keep the eye on the ball, and whether that is a format that would work, and it could be someone who could work with different aspects of town, the town governance, and some of those sorts of things. So those are just 2 things I wanted to put in, you know, kind of put a bug in folks here to think about this as you discuss and think about these things going forward. So thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Anton. Good feedback. Is there anybody else for public comment online? Is anybody there? Anybody in person? Okay, let's conclude public comment. Let's now move to fiscal year 25 financial audit overview. You want to tee us up, or?
Would you like me to jump right in?
Rick, I was going to introduce you. I don't know if
Okay.
you can see me in the
I can
owl,
now. Yep.
So we've invited, because the select board requested it, Rick Brigham from our audit firm who completed our audit this year. It was the second full audit that they've completed for us. And it went very smoothly. I enjoyed working with them, both when they were here in the office with us and all of our work that we did together online. And so Rick is here to kind of give you guys a quick overview and answer any questions that you might have. Thanks for being here, Rick.
No problem. Thanks for having me. So yeah, I just wanted to take a little time and kind of go through the audit report, especially highlight some items. I don't want to get into too many of the weeds, but I want to give you the highlights of what went on for the audit this year. So if you're looking at, this is a 54-page document, a lot of information in there. What I'm going to have you focus on, if you look at page 2 at the top paragraph, the responsibilities of this document is really management, the board, the treasurer, finance team. They come up, you guys set the policies, they do the transactions, book the information during the year. That all feeds into the accounting system. That feeds to this report. I assist with the preparation of this report, but really the numbers of responsibility is management. My responsibility is to give, if you're looking at pages 1 through 3, this is really my responsibility, the auditor's opinion. So when you give an auditor's opinion based on the work you do, you can have 3 different choices. An adverse opinion, meaning the financial statements are not fairly stated. You can have a qualified opinion, meaning the financial statements are fairly stated except for something. Or you can have an unqualified opinion, which is the best you can have. Once again, the town achieved an unqualified opinion, and I always like to congratulate management, the board, staff, everybody who gets to that level. There's a lot of work that I know that goes into this throughout the year. And so I just wanted to congratulate you once again for achieving the unqualified opinion. If you read nothing else in this document, you just wanted a quick user-friendly overview of the financial year and some of the highlights of the audit report, pages 4 through 10 are what we call the management's discussion and analysis. This is a much more user-friendly terminology that you can read through and kind of see a synopsis of the year without getting too technical into accounting terms or GASB terms or things like that. So if you read nothing else and just went through this, you get a great synopsis of what went on during the year. Management again prepares it. We review it as in coordination with the audit report and the numbers in there. But if you're looking for nothing else, I would go through that document. I'm going to skip over to page 13. So this is your financial statement for the general fund for the year. Again, this is if you're looking at page 13, this is a balance sheet. So it's a snapshot in time of what your assets and your liabilities and your deferred inflows are, which all net down to basically your fund balances. If you look at, most people focus on the unassigned fund balance, which this year you can see the unassigned fund balance at the end of the year was 1183919. That's up from last year's 936508 in the unassigned section. And that's what most people will focus on. Again, healthy fund balance there. So if you're looking at page 14, the first page was the balance sheet. The next page would be the income statement. These are the revenues and expenses that came in during the year and went out during the year. And then along with the net change in fund balance, you see how your revenues were 4,003,008. Your expenditures were 3,088,904. And then after other insurance proceeds and long-term debt, you see your net change was about 729,707. I think a lot of that was governmental grants that were coming in from previous years. So you'll see that you went from 1,275,193 to the fund balance in total of 2,004,900, which again ties back to page 13 of your fund balances. Now, if you are looking for a deeper dive into the financial statements, you want to know more about capitalization policies, you want to know about depreciation, what's collateralized, what's insured for your cash, debt terms, things like that. Pages 18 through 42 are what we call the notes to the financial statements. There's lots of great information on there. So if you're looking at, what fund balances can be spent on what things, how much is the reappraisal fund left, have it for in its fund balance, how much do those individual small funds that are combined with the general fund totals, but they're broken out into these footnotes, the fund balances, so you can see any of the balances that you're looking for in those fund balance sections within the footnotes. Like I said, a lot of great information there if you're looking for a deeper dive into anything. If you look at page 43 through 50, you've probably been used to seeing this all year long in your financial reporting, your budget versus actual. Again, when we went in to do the audit, I don't think there was too many adjustments that would differ from what you probably saw during the year. Maybe some accruals at year end and some payables at year end. But other than that, these should pretty much line up with expectations as you saw them throughout the year. I kind of looked through it, I was noticing your revenues are, over budget by 956. A lot of that's the FEMA money, some interest income, and some other highway grants,
Is that
as
FEMA
well
money
as
or
the,
It was the
What's-
ARPA money.
Okay. ARPA money versus FEMA.
We also had the
And-
FEMA.
Okay. It's FEMA and ARPA. Okay, thank you.
and then if you're looking at, that's why you can see the revenues are over. And as far as the expenses, you can see they're over about 300,000. Most of that, if you look back on page 48, you'll see the FEMA expenses were there was no budget for that, and that was $415,000 of the expenses, which is why most of the total expenses were over. One of the requirements of reporting to the board is part of this audit and as part of any presentation is to go over any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that were noted during the course of the audit. I'm again pleased to announce that there might have been a couple things we cleaned up from last year, but there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that were needed to be reported in the audit this year. Again, congratulations for that too. It kind of worked in line with what we had planned last year, what the changes that needed to be made, and they all came through so that we were able to get good, clean numbers for the audit this year and with way less changes that had to happen at year end. Other required communications, we had we encountered no difficulties in dealing with staff or management. We had no disagreements with staff or management. We had no consultations with other auditors, and all entries we proposed were posted. So that's pretty much the audit report. We did issue a separate management letter, which basically outlined a couple other recommendations. Those aren't required to be in writing. We usually do it. There was a couple things we recommended that you do some uniform guidance policies, and I think I've even given examples to Jennifer there, so she could start working on those. At some point, we think it'd be good for the town to do a fraud risk assessment, which is an internal assessment of where fraud could occur within the organization and what controls you can put in place for any risks you might find. And then also doing an investment in banking policy probably be a good thing to do at some point. So that's pretty much it on my side. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions.
Questions?
I have a couple.
Hey, Dan, you're up.
Either for Jennifer or Rick. What page am I looking for? I was just curious what the here it is. It's compensated absences, a new accounting technique or pattern.
I'm sorry, where are you looking?
21F, new pronouncement, compensated absences. What is that?
So there were some changes to compensated absences under GASB standards this year. We used to look at, vacation and sick time and figure out what's vesting, what you have to pay out if somebody were to leave. There were some changes to that they wanted you to look more closely at the sick time, and even if it wasn't going to be paid out upon somebody leaving, they wanted you to accrue some sick time related to what people might be using during the year. So that kind of was just in a different kind of evaluation for compensated absences in the adjustment to get to those numbers for that. Again,
So
those don't go on the fund financials that we had talked about tonight. The only places you're going to see that are on if you look at page 11, which we kind of skipped by. this is what we call the modified, full financial accrual. So if you're looking, this is what we call the government-wide statements. So if we took the things we went over on pages 13 and 14, and we add into all your fixed assets, all your debt, your compensated absences, as well as accruals for that. There's a few other things in there as well, but basically it converts from that balance sheet on page 13 to the balance sheet you see on page 11. Most people don't have me focus on it during the audit because most people are focused on the fund financials, which is the general fund.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Rick or anybody? Floor is yours.
The other question, I know there's mention about our long-term debt in a couple places without much comment that I saw. And I'm wondering if your firm has an opinion as to what a town our size and the financial picture that you see in looking over everything, and what is the upside or the top side of the long-term debt? When should we be concerned, and when should we put the brakes on?
I think from my perspective, I can tell you, I walk into towns your size and I see no debt sometimes. I walk into towns your size and I see double the debt that you have. So it really is based on, the history of the board and the history of the town and what they're willing to do, whether they put money in reserves enough so they don't have to borrow over the years, what their fund balance policy is, what they want to have in fund balance versus what they want to use for reserves for what could be equipment instead of borrowing for that. So really, it's really a kind of up to you guys to figure that out. Where I would say the rubber meets the road is where you start having budget issues, where you're budgeting payments for debt and interest that are starting to affect the budget, where you're having struggles to get the budget passed. So I think if it starts to take over a large amount of the total budget, then that's where I would start looking at it and maybe start looking at using reserves to do some of these equipment purchases rather than looking at some of your debt borrowings. And again, some of that depends on interest rate, what you can earn in the bank versus what you can earn, what you'd have to pay for debt terms. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I looked at it tonight before we were at the meeting, and I didn't think your debt was exorbitant, if that kind of gives you a quick summary.
And I suppose a caution would be to, when our payments for the debt become a bit overwhelming as a part of the budget.
Yes.
What percentage would that be? Like, if you were to say, okay, here's our debt load, and I hate saying, oh, this is how much my payments are, because everybody does that, but I want to see what the debt is. But let's take for the sake of argument, what our payments are for the fiscal year versus what our overall budget is. Is there some kind of a
Ratio?
there?
That's a great question. And in the 40 years I've been doing this, I've never been asked that question. But I will say that if there is such a ratio, where the place to go to, and what I could do is do a little research on that and get back to you directly. But I would say GASB probably has kind of it's not part of the standards, but it might be part of recommendations. Because I know like GASB, for example, recommends you have 25 to 28% in reserves, fund balances of your budget. And there might be something similar that it'd be debt percentages. And I can look around and ask my partners if there's anything percentage wise that they would look at that would give you a general good idea of what would be good practice.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful. In the electric utility industry, the Public Utility Commission, who regulates the electric utility industry, wanted to see debt load. They wanted to make sure that you weren't using everything in cash, because basically the ratepayer that's here today and then gone tomorrow is footing more of the bill. They wanted to see big projects spread out over time, and then the rate base would pick that up. So it's
That makes
interesting.
sense. Yeah.
It's interesting that you'd think there'd be something similar in the municipal world because we're doing bridges, we're doing big capital projects, which feel similar, at least to me.
Yeah. And I'm just going to tell you from my experience in dealing with all the different towns that I do, I've just seen it. It's really been a historical perspective of the board and the taxpayers. You know, I've been to towns where they don't take out any debt for years and years and years. And then I've been to towns that, you know, it's a steady plan according to the capital plan. They knew what they were going to take out and how it was going to affect their budgets over a 5 to 7 year period. And that was a constantly moving capital plan that they would tie back to the debt payments into the budgets, but also know what are we going to borrow, what are we going to use for reserves. And so a lot of that should be kind of built in together. But I do think there should be some industry standards I can look at and give you some sort of guidelines.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Brad, do we adopt the audit? Do we approve the audit?
You could accept the audit, I suppose.
I'll make a motion that we accept the audit as presented and provided in our packet. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. Okay, good work, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Yeah. nice
Thank
job.
you, Rick.
Thank you, everybody.
See you in a few months, Rick.
See you
Thanks,
later.
Rick.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay, that brings us to the Underhill Unified Land Use and Development Regulations. We're still on event venues. Is Larry gonna join us, or?
I included him in the packet that was sent, correct? PC admin was in the email to the packet.
I have some audit, or I have some language that I'd like to be added to the record for that.
Okay,
It'll take a while.
Yep. Go ahead.
Under the Underhill land use amendments.
Somebody's coming on, Bob, with this. Maybe so, there's
Oh,
Larry.
there's
So
Larry.
here.
Excellent. Good timing. We just jumped in, Larry. So Bob, are you looking, if you are looking at a specific page, that'd be awesome to,
I'm going from, I believe, top to bottom. So I'm
Okay.
looking at table 3.1 first.
okay, got it. In our packet PDF, page 60.
Yeah, let me get to it.
Or did you mean 2.1 events?
What's that?
Did you mean 2.1? Table
Wait, the
2.1.
table, I thought it was table 3.1. Where it talks about the parking requirements.
I think, oh. Page 59
Maybe on the wrong page.
on the PDF, just up one page.
Got it.
Yeah, so this is 59.
Just so we can follow along.
Where is it? So I can send this out so it can be recorded, but I'd like to delete event venue 1 parking space per 5 participants and maximum Division of Fire Safety approved capacity, and add a minimum of 1 off-street parking space per 3 attendees based on the maximum occupancy established by the Vermont Division of Fire Safety or as otherwise approved. The Development Review Board may require additional parking or allow a reduction based upon the type of nature of the event, the expected vehicle occupancy, availability of shared or off-site parking, and traffic conditions and road capacity. The applicant may submit a parking and traffic management plan to justify alternative ratio. All parking areas shall prevent overflow onto public roads, maintain emergency vehicle access, and provide safe ingress and egress in circulation. That's 1.
Larry, do you have any reactions to that? Instead of, can you hear us? Larry, can you hear us? We
Yeah,
can't
we're
hear
not,
you.
we're not hearing you, Larry. Sorry.
Can we keep going?
Yeah, keep going, because we got a packed agenda, so we gotta move.
So, section 4.20, events venue amended, added language. I'd like to add C, parentheses H, the traffic and parking management plan. For events exceeding 100 attendees, the applicant shall submit a traffic and parking management plan demonstrating on-site and off-site parking capacity, traffic flow and internal circulation, measures to prevent roadside parking, emergency vehicle access and turnaround capability, noting that the DRB may impose conditions to mitigate impacts to public roads and adjoining properties. Next, under CI, the application submission timeline. Application shall be submitted no less than, I put down 45 days prior to the event exceeding 100 persons, 30 days prior for events between 50 and 100 persons, and 14 days prior for smaller events where permitted by the zoning administrator. Applications deemed incomplete shall not be accepted for review. I would add under C parentheses J, the state permit requirement. The applicant shall obtain all required permits from the Vermont Division of Fire Safety, including establishment of maximum capacity, maximum occupancy. Issuance of a zoning permit may occur prior to receipt of such permits. However, no event shall be conducted until all required state permits have been obtained and provided to the town. This requirement is consistent with the town's existing authority requiring applicants to secure all applicable state and federal permits prior to commencement of use. Add under C parentheses K, conditions used replaces prior suspension language. Compliance with all required state permits, including occupancy limits, shall be a condition of use. Failure to obtain or maintain such permits prior to the event shall result in immediate prohibition of the event and enforcement action under section 10. The zoning administrator may issue a stop use order where required permits are not in place. Add under C parentheses I, pre-event certification requirements. The applicant shall provide documentation of all required state approvals, including approved occupancy, no less than 7 days prior to the event. Failure to provide such documentation may result in town prohibiting the event from proceeding. Add under C parentheses M, parking based on occupancy. All parking calculations shall be based on the maximum occupancy established by the Vermont Division of Fire Safety or otherwise approved by the DRB. Add C N, pre-event compliance verification. For events exceeding 100 attendees, the zoning administrator may require verification that parking areas are prepared, traffic controls are in place, temporary structures are safely installed, required permits have been obtained. Failure to demonstrate compliance may result in prohibition of the event. Section 4.19.B, amend, I would delete or move to delete all facilities associated with the event shall be removed from the premises at the end of the event. I would add temporary event related structures, including tents, staging, sanitation facilities, lighting, and equipment may be erected prior to the event and remain following the event for a reasonable period of time for setup and removal, unless otherwise approved by the zoning administrator. Structures may be installed up to 3 days prior to the event, and structures may be removed within 2 days following the event. Extended timeframes may be approved based on the event size and complexity, weather conditions, and site constraints. All temporary structures shall be removed within the approved timeframe. Add clarification for private non-commercial events. I would propose private non-commercial events, including family gatherings and weddings not conducted for commercial profit, shall not be considered event venues and shall remain regulated under this section. Section 10, enforcement. Add failure to comply with approved parking, traffic management, occupancy limits, temporary structure timeframes, or required permits shall constitute a violation subject to enforcement under the bylaw. including fines, suspensions, or revocation of permits. Each day a violation continues shall constitute a separate violation consistent with existing town ordinances and authority. I think that it avoids us having a legal trap. Reason why I want this to go through, it doesn't delay permit issuance waiting for the state, uses existing authority, aligns with our requirement to obtain all permits before use, uses enforcement provisions already in place, controls the matters most, the event itself, use, not the paperwork timing, and it fixes our biggest risks, which are, I feel, the parking, underestimation, last minute DFS issues, setup, tear down confusion, and enforcement ambiguity. Bottom line, I think it's legally defensible, operationally realistic, consistent with existing Underhill ordinances, and it's easy for the select board to support.
You obviously been doing your homework.
Yeah.
I am prepared.
Excellent.
So I think Larry's having a hard time hearing us. Am I correct, Larry? Yeah,
we're certainly.
Well, that's
not hearing
unfortunate.
we cannot hear you.
What I would suggest we do is, Bob, can you circulate your well-done work
I'll
to all
send
of
it.
us?
I'll send an email.
And have obviously Larry take a look, and then we can circle back around at the next meeting and have the feedback from Larry on all of Bob's.
And I propose that Larry be here, and I also propose that Larry prepares a red line version. I thought we'd asked for this prior, but maybe I misunderstood or misspoke. A red line version of the ordinance so that we can see what's being added and what's being deleted, so it's clear in a red line version of the proposal.
Yeah.
So that we all have that document, going in.
Can I jump in here? Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yeah.
That would be
Okay,
really
so
helpful.
first of all, Bob, I'm a little confused. Was all that stuff you just said intended to be new additions to the draft?
It's my
Is that
feedback
what your
on,
intention was?
it's my feedback on the draft that we received. I thought that was the whole point of, you bring the draft to us and I provide feedback on what I feel that we're either hitting it or we're missing something, and to provide that feedback.
Okay, so with all due respect, the process laid out in statute to propose changes to the existing land use regulations is that they're supposed to be developed by the Planning Commission, which they were. They're supposed to be subjected to a public hearing with a request for feedback, which we did. We had the public hearing. We then listened to the public hearing results and we modified the draft based on the feedback that we got in the public hearing. And then we turn it over to the select board for review. The select board can, of course, if it chooses to, modify the draft based on feedback from their own public hearing, which is supposed to be held before they make any changes to the draft. And then once they've heard feedback from the public.
Larry, I'm going to jump in. So you're saying that we're not allowed to give feedback before it goes to public hearing?
No, I'm saying that the idea is to respect, this is a personal opinion and a preference rather than coming directly out of statute. But what I was reading to you was the process as it's spelled out in statute. And then what I think in here, a comprehensive review of what he personally thinks is missing from the draft is sort of two steps. One would be communicating with your town planner that you intend to significantly modify the draft that the Planning Commission has worked so hard to prepare and has presented to you for consideration. Secondly, it's assuming that it's worth your time to invest a lot of time and energy into revising the Planning Commission's vetted draft. And when I say vetted, I'm including the legal review because the drafts that are before you have been subject to a comprehensive review by our town attorney at town expense, which is something that we feel is appropriate and necessary step. So the town attorney has weighed in here and has reviewed this language and has approved it as being in compliance with state statute and reasonable to administer if it were to pass. So then this whole new information that's coming from Bob, I have to say I'm very distressed that you have chosen to bypass me and not give me a heads up that you were proposing all these changes to the draft that has been gone through the process that I just described before you brought it up tonight for discussion before this body. And secondly, I'm more than a little perturbed because this feels like disrespect for the work that the Planning Commission has done to date on these proposed changes. And, you know, really, it wouldn't have been as much of a problem for me if you had called your public hearing, gotten input from the community, and then used that input to shape your next steps. Now, you are fully within your rights to answer the question that was just asked, to make changes to the draft. But I would think you would, A, want to respect the work that was done by the Planning Commission before you waded into making extensive changes, and B, waited until you heard from the public, because people in the community may in fact like this draft as it was proposed, and may feel like it does represent a reasonable regulatory standard. And then I guess the last thing I want to say is that a lot of the requirements that seem to be referring to, I didn't catch it all because I was busy addressing the technical difficulties in my end, but it sounded like a lot of it pertains to parking and fire safety and emergency vehicle access. And these are all things that are a part of the State Division of Fire Safety review of a commercial establishment of this kind, and therefore is somewhat duplicative of what the Division of Fire Safety would already require and do anyway. And B, that it is also duplicative of the process that's spelled out in our land use regulations for site plan review and conditional use review, which are both encompassed in the current proposal, not getting into all those details. So I have a lot of issues here, and I'm sorry if I feel like I'm in reaction, but you know, I think a reasonable to someone who you are the town with an assumption of expertise in this field would be that if you're going to spring something on this like these changes at the last minute, that you at least give me a heads up beforehand and let me think about them a little bit before I'm asked to discuss them with you in a public session. Stuff.
Can I respond to that?
Absolutely.
So, Larry, this isn't meant to be sprung on anybody, and I'm a little taken aback by your response because it wasn't an emotional one at all, but perhaps the process itself is broken. Because as a member of a board, I felt that I'm allowed and able to give feedback. So if that's not the case, then perhaps we need to look at the process so that the select board has an opportunity to give feedback, because I could flick the table and say, like, you never asked for any feedback from the select board, that you went ahead with the planning commission and you came up with what you thought, and then you just feel that, you know, this is just going to get rubber stamped by this board. I feel that as a member of this board, I'm entitled to give feedback and input into this process as well. And if that's not the case, then we should probably discuss that process on how we move forward going forward in a process where the select board, who has to deal with the complaints and dealing with the town, on how we do fit into this process altogether. And further, I don't know, I'm not going to get into the emotional component of it. I certainly wasn't trying to hurt anyone's feelings by presenting this. It certainly wasn't meant as, you know, to be disrespectful whatsoever. I'm giving the feedback. I felt this was my time to be able to do that, and that's why we have these meetings. If you felt otherwise, I certainly apologize. It was not my intent at all.
Would it be a workable approach to have Bob meet with Larry and the Planning Commission and go over you've obviously done a ton of work, and the Planning Commission has done a lot of work too. Have the two groups get together and walk through the edits. I agree with Bob that we have an opportunity here to give feedback. We also are not stepping on the Planning Commission's toes, but this is the stuff that we have. This is the first time we're looking at it, and this is our opportunity to give feedback. And Bob comes with a deep understanding of the state rules and how that fits with this proposal on event venues. It should be vetted, and probably that work should be done with the planning commission, the full planning commission.
That's,
Does that make sense?
that's fine, but that, again, if that's gonna be the process, then we should establish that that's the process, because I certainly have an opinion on this, because it happens to be an event venue, and I have, you know, a knowledge in that, but I'm just concerned going forward for our future proposals that are gonna come forward, like, you know, I don't want this to be the reaction for other board members when they may have something that they want to weigh in on. It just like, I feel like the process itself is like, does this mean that, you know, the board should then come before, or the entire planning commission should go before, you know, each other's boards? Should we have a joint meeting with both the planning and the select board?
Well,
Like,
you're-
I don't mind doing this. I'm not trying to say that. Oh, what I'm trying to say is this, like, what's the process going forward for like future
Yeah.
other problems or
Yeah,
other, you know, other things that come up?
Can I shed a little bit of light on things here? So you're all members of the planning commission. Okay, the entire select board are unofficial members of the planning commission. So Larry's correct. The planning commission has statutory authority to create regulation. And we go through the statutory process with the hearings. We're doing it a little bit non-traditionally here because you're kind of exposing you to the regs first instead of having a public hearing. So you're getting to weigh in on the regs without a public hearing, and then I guess they go back. But if they're substantially rewritten, the planning commission has to start from scratch. So you're all members of the planning commission, and you're welcome to any planning commission meeting at any time. But if we definitely need to find an avenue here, because this is not going to work, right? If we have all these regulations recommended by the planning commission, and then they're substantially changed each one, we're not going to get anything done. So I think we need to figure out some sort of a system here to make it work.
Well, can't we have a check-in with the select board that we can give before it gets to a final version to get our feedback? Because it's not fair to run it by us, and if we have a thought or.
I think we should have a meeting. Perhaps Bob could come down. We can meet with Larry. Let's do that offline maybe. And
Well, certainly, as Bob said on this, it makes sense for Larry and Bob to huddle up on this, but there could be other things as we attack the trail piece. That's gonna be next.
Right.
The trail piece is next, and then the sawmill's next. And then, so we may all have input in different spheres, and I don't know what my boundaries are on this. I didn't, you know, if it's coming to us, we should all have an opportunity to chime in and give input. And if we're being told we can't.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if it gets substantially ripped apart and substantially changed, it needs to go back to the planning commission.
Well, that's what it feels like, Brad.
Restart.
Because, you know, I don't know if what I'm proposing and saying is gonna make it seem like it's a substantial changes.
It's very substantial.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
No.
You know what I
that's
mean?
okay.
But and I won't know that, whether or not what I'm proposing, like, if it comes forward to us, like, we're not part of that decision-making process.
That's
So-
what the planning commission is for. It's like I say, they're traditionally, they have, you know, they meet meeting after meeting. They use our old regs, our new regs, Larry's guidance, statute, and run it by our town's attorney. And this is how they feel our regs should be rewritten. If you want to be part of that process, you're all welcome to be part of that process. Because I said, you're all
Well, I guess the
ad hoc members of the planning commission.
I feel like I'm the dog chasing its tail here, and I'm not trying to be. But I feel that there has to come a point in time where, when the regulation is coming before, that the select board have an opportunity to weigh in. And it feels like we're not. And if we say anything, then, you know, potentially we irritate the planning commission and all the hard work and what they've done with the town attorney and everything like that. Well, I understand that I have the opportunity to go to a planning commission meeting, but I'm a select board member. And I know I may be an ad hoc member of the planning commission, but I don't know when they are discussing things. I didn't sign up to be on both. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have. I don't have the time to, to invest in both committees right now. But I don't know if it means like when there's a change, a substantial change that's coming before, when is it that, we would then want to make sure that we have an opportunity to know that and then go forward to hear what's going on and then potentially respond to that.
Larry?
Okay, so the drafts that are before you were put up for public hearing by the Planning Commission on August 21st, 2025. So going on 8 months ago at this point. And they have been before you, I think, since, I'd say October or November. That was when the legal review was completed and I handed them off to Brad for your consideration. So a lack of time, there's been months have passed that we could have had this information or we could have had questions and responses. And Brad is right, this is a little non-traditional to have a substantive discussion and presentation before the select board prior to your having a public hearing about them. And my understanding is the reason why we did it this way is that you all wanted to have a chance to ask questions and get clarification about what the intention and the meaning of these were and why we chose to, why we, the Planning Commission, chose to go the way that we did in light of the circumstances and the information that we had, so that you could be clear when you're in a public hearing setting, your own public hearing on these proposals, what the proposals were, and we're able to answer questions in an intelligent and informed way. And that was really the purpose of this presentation and this discussion. In no way did I expect or was I prepared to have a complete rewrite presented and be asked to respond to that in a spur of the moment. Now, I don't want to give the impression here that we're not interested in the select board's feedback, because of course we are. That's why we're having this discussion. But I would prefer that the feedback be framed as in, let's first understand why we chose this approach, why we presented the information the way we did, and then I think the logical next step is once your questions have been answered and you feel comfortable with the material as it was presented and vetted through the Planning Commission and the town and this public hearing and the town attorney process that took place to date, that you're comfortable going forward and having a warned public hearing about it and hearing from the community, and then, and only then, having a substantive discussion on making changes, because you absolutely have the right as a select board to propose changes to the draft. No one's questioning that. That's in statute. You can make whatever changes you want. I think it would be preferable to have this process unfold the way that I just described, and then get into the nitty-gritty of what should, if anything, change. If you do make substantive changes in the kind that Robert was going over in his presentation, it does have to come back for another review by the Planning Commission, a formal review, and then a formal public hearing to decide if we want to accept those recommendations. And then it will go back to you, and you'll have another opportunity to discuss it, and you'll have another public hearing, which is again required under statute, and you can then, in the end, make whatever changes you want, up to and including abandoning the whole project and leaving the regulations exactly as they are. So that's your prerogative. As a select board, you have the final authority to adopt changes to the land use regulations under statute now. They don't have to go to a vote for the town. You can put them up for a vote by the town residents, but there's, I think in most cases that's probably not indicated or needed in terms of the scope of what we're doing. There is a delegation that happens within statute, which is you appoint a planning commission, you trust them to do the work and then to shape these regulations as they see fit, and then bring them to you for review and adoption. And you're free to make whatever changes you want to make at that point. But I'm not, I hope you don't take my response as emotional, because it's about the professionalism of this. It's about not undermining the process that we have in town to do this work, and to not undermine the Planning Commission that has put in a fair amount of work on these regulations that are before you, and the investment that the town has made in town attorney review as well, and moving forward with a process that invites maximum public participation, and then at the same time gives you the last word, because you do have the last word on these.
Before we go too much deeper, I would like a very detailed accounting of the process and when it's not appropriate for the board to weigh in, because I'm not understanding this fully. And I get the sense that sometimes the feedback is welcome, and I'm getting the sense that sometimes it's not, and it's looked upon, use the word, now I'm undermining. So at what point does a member of the select board have to make any changes whatsoever in the document that's coming before us? Do we have any say in that whatsoever?
I agree with you, Bob. I think there needs to be a checkpoint before we get through our process of public hearing. We get an opportunity to chime in, because if there's any feedback we want to provide, this is our opportunity to do it before it goes to the next public hearing process. Before you jump in, Bob, Larry, I want to say, we all respect the work that you and the Planning Commission has done.
Absolutely.
Nobody is undermining that work, and we just want to I want to put that out there as a statement. I feel like this is being the select board's time to chime in, and I didn't understand the process that if we wanted to have feedback, we needed to be involved back in January. If I'd known that, maybe I would have been involved back in January. It's especially going to become important for the sawmill discussion. I mean, this is a good tee up for a really bigger one coming. We're all going to want to have input on that. I mean, I think I think we need to have a place a place in the process. And if it's atypical to do that, but it's not out of bounds, let's do it. Let's have this be our process for the town of Underhill.
I have to agree, and I also have to reiterate that in order for this board, the select board, is extremely taxed. And I don't know if tax is the right word, but we are challenged the month of November, December, and January. And our main focus typically is getting a budget ready for town meeting. And then to be immersed into something else, I don't know that this board really has the bandwidth to get into much of anything else other than getting prepared and getting ready for a budget that needs to go before the voters. So I'm not trying to be emotional about this, but I struggle with this process and when the members of the board are going to be able to have the ability to give constructive feedback in that process, and it not be taken an emotional like discredit of the hard work that the planning commission and the town planner have done. I'm not trying to do that. And if I'm coming across that way, that's certainly not my intent at all. And I don't know, honest to God, I don't know how to fix it other than to say like,
We'll have some better guidance next time. I think it's already 6:53. If you want to keep talking about it, it's fine, but.
Right, but is it fair that we can have Bob's feedback looped over to the planning commission?
I would like a Word document of some sort of digital copy of that, something I can either copy and paste or a Word doc would be great, PDF, I don't care. So we could, first of all, get it to Donna for the record to include. Second of all, to get it to Larry and the planning commission. I will reach out, I'll work with Larry and we'll have a memo here about how this process will work going forward.
Okay, that's perfect.
Is that a good way to leave this here?
That would be very good.
That would be great.
Keep moving.
Larry, are you in agreement?
Yeah, that's fine. And I would just ask respectfully that just like you would expect that if there was a matter related to something other than the bylaws that was before you that you wanted my feedback or participation on, that you get it to me ahead of a meeting with enough time to really digest it, and that if there's an opportunity for dialogue, if the proposal that affects my span of authority, if you will, in planning, that you want, that there be an opportunity to have an offline conversation before it comes to the select board, so that nobody feels taken aback or unprepared for giving feedback that they're asked to give. That seems like the most respectful process is to have that opportunity for, especially when it comes to staff work, to have a chance to review material, and if it would be appropriate to discuss it on a one-on-one informal setting offline before it comes to the select board. That would be very helpful if we could have that commitment.
All right, I'm gonna table this because we could just keep
No,
going. We're gonna spiral here.
I want to respond to that respectfully, that the select board packet is given to us 3 days prior to this meeting. So it's not necessarily practical to find time within 3 days of receiving a packet to then be able to schedule a meeting with members of staff. If we are going to go down this rabbit hole, then we need to get a packet much sooner than 3 days. So I mean, I don't want to go point counterpoint about this, but respectfully, that I only have 3 days. As a member of the board, when I get a packet and when we don't get a red line version and not being able to see the entire document, which was requested before, and then to have this, it's a little bit disingenuous from where I sit.
Okay, I think there's room on both sides, but I'm not gonna go down this rabbit hole, so we're gonna table it and we will take it up at the next meeting. Okay, the next one we have still involves Larry. We have a public outreach planning support consultant proposal before us.
Just lay the motion down.
Good idea. I'm gonna make a motion. I move to award the public outreach and planning support consulting work as outlined in the municipal planning grant to Du Bois and King, based upon the proposal for $20,340, and authorize Jennifer and Brad to review the contract. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
The ayes carry 4-0 with one abstention, Bob Stone. Do we have to go around the room?
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
Patty Richards, aye.
Charlotte Rule, aye.
Maureen Collins Kolb, aye.
Bob Stone abstaining.
Okay, so it carries with a 4-0 with one abstention. Okay. Let's now move to highway supervisor items. Russ, you're up.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Nice.
Beautiful day here in Underhill, Vermont. I'll start with Patty's request of updating the entire board about our couple truck repairs that we had. I will tell you that I did want to bring up the, I won't call it an accident, the mishap with the fender and stuff. It wasn't an accident by any means, but the last meeting was very, I felt, was being rushed. There was a lot of people here. It was busy. So I did not bring it up at that meeting. But I did talk to Patty the next day. The parts have been ordered. Got to get the fender painted. And when that comes in, we will be putting that truck back together. The second one was our 2021 dump truck. Went in for Vermont inspection and the coolant leak. And Patty, I gave her the estimate for the repairs. I did add one more thing to that with them while they were there and they were working on it. The truck, I don't expect you guys to know what they are, but they're called brake chambers. Each rear brake has a chamber. It's an air operated spring, makes the brake shoes move. One of them was broke and needed to be replaced for inspection. From history, usually when one breaks, the other one's not far behind it. It's going to increase it a couple $100. So I said, while you're there doing that one, let's do both. So they're both brand new and we're not dealing with that down the road. So once that truck is complete, our chloride truck will be going in for state inspection as well. That has also been brought in, serviced. Chloride engine has been all serviced, ready to go. So when we do start chloriding, we're all good. Hopefully Monday was our last snow event.
You said that there's snow next week.
We did not have to do anything, but it was getting close Monday morning that we thought we might have to salt the valley, but we did not have to. Update on mud season. Most of our roads are doing great. We got a few troubled spots, a few roads that are getting better slowly. I expect probably next week we'll be able to take the posted signs down. So things are going well there. Scott's on the grader full bore. We have our rhyme or reason of what roads we're grading are technically our worst roads. We're kind of getting to the worst roads first. So maybe jumping around a little bit, but that's our goal.
Do the roads dry out at a consistent, equal basis? So
No.
it depends on which road is ready to be graded.
Well, we had, just for instance, Mullen Road on Poker Hill, started out with mud. We put a little stone down. It dried up nice. Friday evening, a friend of mine who lives out there called me and he goes, "Have you checked your roads today?" And I'm like, "Some of them." "You didn't check Mullen Road." And I thought he was fooling, but he sent me a video and the mud was 8 inches deep. So first thing Monday, we went up, we put 4 loads of stone on Mullen Road, and that's not good up there. But hopefully it's going to get better. We got some great weather to dry these roads up, and once they get, what happens is sometimes it looks like all the frost is out and then it's not, and then it cools down or it rains or whatever, and things, they just pop up in the strangest places we've never had a problem. Now we've got a problem. It's in places we normally go to have been good. There's no rhyme or reason of where these pop up.
Does the stone that you put in for temporary mitigation, does that turn out to be something that contributes to the health of the road?
In most cases, yes, Dan, it'll go down into the mud, and when it dries out, it just turns part of the gravel. We'll usually put gravel over the top of that and then grade it in, and then it usually is part of the road base. In some places, we've had to go back and scoop up some of the stone because it just didn't go down like we thought it was going to go down. So we scoop it back up and bring it back. We'll use it again next time versus trying to blend it all in. And
So you can tell if it's blending or not.
oh, we
quick.
can definitely tell.
Yeah, if it just raises the surface, then you're spending all this money to gravel to cover it. One year, I think we covered thousands of yards of stone.
Yeah. So we just, depending on the
Went back and
spot,
scooped it all back up.
we go back up with a loader and scoop it up and bring it back to the pile. So I know we put some gravel over it and Scott grades it and blends it all together. Seems to work pretty well. May get some calls for dust because it is pretty dry in places, but we will not be doing any chloriding because right now we're just kind of trying to get roads smooth. We're not doing real finished grading. And so chloride will come once we do our finish, our more detailed grading. We did get our sweeper unit last Friday, and we had it for the week. And Ken was assigned to do the sweeping and did a fantastic job. And it only took him a couple days. So next year, if we do this same thing, we'll know we won't need it for a week. I expected we'd need it for a week because that's kind of what it took the last company that did it, was about a week. So moving forward, that's a learning experience and it worked very well, and I recommend we do it again next year. Dan Clayton's job is complete down by Patty's.
Did a really nice job. It's great.
Came out nice. And so that everything the town is required to do for the bridge job is completed. Trees are done. Dan's job is done. So we are all set on our end for the bridge to get started. Right about the bridge, Brad and I talked about message signs. That we didn't go any further with that, did we?
We didn't, I was put it on the agenda for next
Oh,
time,
for
but
next
we,
time.
but we did, Patty and I had a conversation with two, I think Bob and I, and you got some prices.
Yeah.
For signs around 600, I think, for the month.
I emailed them.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think it
remember.
was 600 and 650. Farmyard's road was 600
Per sign.
per
So
sign.
roughly $1,200-$1,300 a month, but the plan was, I guess, is to put a sign at the Cambridge and then another one down here. Coming up, the bridge is going to be closed to warn people, and then while the bridge is closed, there'll be, would say bridge closed ahead.
And we'll go over this at the next
Yeah.
meeting,
Yeah.
especially at the interest of time, but I do want to see something up here at Irish Settlement Road that says local traffic only, to really discourage people from using Irish Settlement. Just don't tell them it's a cut for local traffic only.
All right,
I'll put that
we'll talk about.
I'll put that on the agenda for
Okay.
next.
Because I got a couple ideas. We did our first planned culvert replacement today on New Road, not the big one. We had another failed one closer to Pleasant Valley. So we did that one today. Our plan is next week, because we got to bring the sweeper back tomorrow morning, so we won't have a full day. Probably Monday, we'll start the large culvert we got for New Road. And then from there, we're gonna do the Fuller Road culvert that was approved by the select board last year.
Mhm.
That did surface again this year, and we had to temporarily fix it again. So that's our plan. And then after that, we're gonna move to Corbett Road, which is probably gonna be one of our larger projects this summer, from top to bottom, with MRGP, ditching, stone lining, a few culverts. So we'll be up there for a while. Expecting to hear from Slayton's Paving soon on the pavement repairs. They said that we would be first on their list, and once the pavement plant's opened, and they're usually towards the end of April. So I'm expecting to hear from them soon to see when they're going to be in town. And then the Vermont WorkSafe, most of our checklists for things to do with the garage have been done. We do have a few more things that we had to order and got in, which they're all here, and then that should be done very soon. And then we'll put a report together and get that back to Vermont WorkSafe well before our deadline of May 29th. So it'll be back before the end of April. So, and that'll be it. And then that will bring me to the two memos that I gave you folks about the logger show in Essex Junction at the fairgrounds on May 1st. I'd like to take the crew down to this expo. It's been several years since the road crew has been. They have been in the past, but it comes to Essex every other year. And the tree shear that we're anticipating getting is going to be there, and plus others that we could look at too. I think it'd be very beneficial for
Will
us.
they demonstrate there, or is
I
it
don't
just?
know if they have a demo. I don't know. I know that company that I've been talking to will be there, so I'll be able to meet them firsthand and actually hands-on look at it. I don't think they have a demo, but I don't know that for sure. So I'd like to take the guys
Do we
down.
need to make a motion to approve training of that minimal?
You could just say consensus.
Yeah, and look for consensus of the board. I support having you guys go out
Yes.
for training for
I
both
do as well.
the
Yes.
Loggers Expo, in addition to your request for the cities and towns truck and equipment. Is there any, what's your thoughts?
Good.
It's good. Maureen, are you good?
No, I think that sounds great.
All right, you got a green light for both.
Great, thank you very much. And then the second thing, it's been a while since Craig Lassiter was here in town and was the town's part-time employee. I would like to entertain a part-time employee this summer to do some smaller jobs, weed whacking around, guardrail maintenance, maybe haul some sand, maybe help on a big job, 1 or 2 days a week. I do have a gentleman, and there's a resident of Underhill who just retired from Burlington Public Works, who was a CDL holder, that is interested in the position if we'd like to go that route.
That is in the budget?
That is in the budget, yeah. We have $15,000 that we put in for part-time help, where we have used it in the past for grader operator or whatnot, but, so I'd like to move forward with that.
How much of the budget would be spent in the summer additional help?
Sure, I guess.
Yeah. And would there be any risk of, if we ran out that budget before the end of the fiscal year?
I don't think we would. We would, because I'd like to go sometime in the June 1st range, so we have 15 still in there till July, and then we'll have another 15 after July.
Okay.
If we wouldn't go over it at all. And he's interested just for 1 or 2 days a week. It'll be weather dependent too and what we're doing, but.
And you haven't used any of the 15 up to now?
No.
It helps to have the grader, Scott doing the grader.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we don't have to pay for that.
Yep.
If you have a question? I'm gonna make a motion that we authorize Russ to pursue the part-time summer help as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.
So next time we put on the agenda, you'd have a conversation with him, but actually hiring him and saying what the wage would be and that sort of thing. Okay.
Anything else, Russ?
That's what I had.
Got the drawings.
We have the drawings.
Oh. So I didn't see those. How do you want to lead us through this?
Bob can. I've got another schematic over there and I could wheel it over here, but just kind of tough with this table.
So the addition, if you want me to talk about it.
Yes, please.
So the addition is, the idea is to remove we have the existing garage. So you have the bays, and then you have that little addition that's the offset off from where the garage bays are. So the idea is to remove that and then put this addition onto that building, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, several bays here. And Michael Dugan, in his presentation to me, came up with, he has cutouts, and I can show everybody offline, like the measurements of each particular dump truck and whatnot, and how all the pieces would fit into the proposed equipment garage area with the trailers and everything like that. So this is his rendering of it. Rendering, don't get too concerned about like the sleeping area. I told him that, we probably want to have like a break area so that if they're out plowing, they might have a chair where they could, close their eyes, instead of going home and then go right back at it. So, just a kind of a day break room, type of thing, so that, there are those winter events where it just doesn't stop. They would give more of an office area for Russ or the town, whoever Russ's predecessor is or whatnot, an office area where now, there is no private area for Russ to have an office area. As you walk in, you kind of are right in Russ's area.
Receptionist.
See, now, he's proposing like an airlock, and then there would be a reception area so that again, if this building was built back in 2000, Brad?
Yeah, 99, 2000.
So this building that we currently have has lasted 26 years. And we're discovering that why this is coming up is the roof was spray foamed, and we have to address the roof. So, and the bays of the garage are not, they were designed for single axle trucks. They were not designed for tandem axle trucks. Now we have tandem axle trucks. So we've slowly but surely, we're outgrowing the present building that we're in. So that's why this is all coming into play, where you'd actually have all the equipment in, undercover. You could actually have a wash bay, so that we can, hopefully increase the longevity of our equipment and give the folks an opportunity to, do more routine maintenance, type of thing with having that capability. So that's largely what the drawing is. It's very similar to what we have. It just would, it would not be a drive-through bay like we have now. It would be a, kind of a shed in the back so that they could park like the trailer for the excavator. If they so chose to, leave it, and that would be kind of an open shed type area. You'll notice that there is a sprinkler fire pump room, because we are going to be going over the capacity that you'd be able to build something without, needing that. So because there isn't a pressurized water system out that way, we would have to capture our own water and have that available in a pump. You'll also notice that the bays are slightly larger, and they're delineated so that in the event that we are going to be looking at electric vehicles in the future, I know that was thought of that we may be going down that road, but I think, under this current federal administration, we're not, seeing that green technology, but that doesn't mean that it won't be happening again. That gives us the opportunity to build like a rated wall so that, God forbid, a similar situation happened like what just happened in Williston with the buses, where, if one of these electric vehicles starts to have a thermal runaway type condition, it doesn't necessarily take out the entire fleet. So, because it would quickly go past what the sprinkler system is designed for. So it would be like a fire rated wall that you could build so that, God forbid one did start to go off, that it wouldn't necessarily, it would give you more time to, it wouldn't take out the next vehicle or the next vehicle, it wouldn't daisy chain down, that wall would be there, or we could build the wall if we decide that we're going to go into having electric fleet or any vehicles in the fleet, you would have that capability. So just trying to think a little bit ahead as far as if that's going to be a possibility. So that's why I just make it a little bit wider, a little bit longer, so that if we did need to have that, we would have it.
Or should electric vehicles just be parked outside because of that risk?
My opinion, 100%. Because you're risking something going up at 2,000 degrees and, the capability of taking out. Charlotte learned that lesson. They lost their whole garage and whole fleet because they had a fire in the garage. It was an unprotected building. So we run the same type of risk, is that we have a non-protected building right now. And I know the guys are real conscious as far as safety and, do the right things. And we have the audit come in from Vermont leagues and cities in town, and we try to keep everything, safe up there, but strange things happen.
So this proposal keeps the existing building, right?
It keeps the existing building, and then
What do we do with that roof then?
that roof would be taken off and a new roof be put on.
Okay, so part of the renovation would be brand new roof for old.
On the old, and then, build this connecting type building onto it. We take that, I don't know if you want to call it the office area portion of the building off, and then, go new from the outside wall of the present garage bay and go out.
Tear down the salt shed.
Possibly, I think tear down the salt shed. We're waiting to, we have to wait for the ground to thaw so that topographical data can be obtained. And I think Brad's just waiting to
That'd be the next step.
That would be the next step, is that certainly can make, changes to this. I mean, we added like a kitchenette and eating area for the guys. Right now they have, I don't even know if it's 3 feet, maybe that's being generous, counter space and a couple cabinets and a refrigerator and a toaster, and, they don't have a lot to, do with, so, like to have something proposed that they could have something there, that they could actually use a kitchen similar to what's here at the town hall.
Can we get an invoice from Michael Dugan so we know how much? I know we set aside exploration money in this fiscal year, right? That we're in. So it would be helpful to get, or would you like me to contact, or would you like to just, if you get us an invoice?
For to date of
Yeah.
what we've spent?
Yeah.
Sure, I can call them.
And we want to be mindful that it's good for this fiscal year. So hopefully get the surveying, and if we could get all of Michael's work and the surveying done before June 30th and then expend that money, that'd be the way to go.
We have money set aside for this next fiscal year as well, correct or no?
I don't think so. We just did it the fiscal year we're in, so.
So we have to conclude this investigation type. I don't know if I don't know if we're gonna be prepared to want to, price this, and get like more drawings,
Yeah, he could, I think once we get the topographic drawn, he could probably run up some rough construction estimates if there's still money left in the budget to do that. And then we'd have a rough idea of what we're looking at. I think it's gonna be a
I
lot.
think that's very important.
Yeah, where you need to know how much it's gonna cost.
Right, exactly.
That's a very
Yeah.
important.
We could be prepared as we look at the budget in
Right,
fall.
exactly.
Right.
So in terms of this space, does this allow us room to grow, or with all the new bays, how many would be free? Or, how do I
Well,
say that?
I'd want to look at that, drawing, because I think that gives, so you have in the existing garage, you have a proposed, the far bay closest to where the generator is, that would be proposed as a wash bay.
Mhm. Which I think makes a lot of sense.
So the
The
next-
salt just eats the vehicles.
The next bay would be if we wanted to lease a bay to the fire department, because they are also looking for, they want to build a fire station.
So that's what that is.
So the proposed would be is that, can we enter into some type of lease agreement with the fire department, and they can have a truck there. The benefit would be from many different angles, like the residents would benefit because now there's a fire truck closer, and then two, their insurance rate should be a lot less because now they can qualify that they have a fire station within 5 miles. 3, you don't take money off the tax rolls. Typically, we vote to, not tax the Underhill Jericho Fire Department's property and their land and stuff like that. If they were to go out and not use this, and they were to go out on their own and buy a little piece of land from someone, I'm sure that, that would be coming before the board to say, are we going to remove that from the grand list, or are we going to give that in lieu of taxes and, not have that? So this is an existing building. We're not getting tax revenue from this building now. So we wouldn't be losing that money, in my mind, in the grand list.
The only issue is with the bond, because I remember having this conversation about the bridge when Dave Rue was here, and he talked about leasing. I don't know if you remember that, but he's, he used the building scenario, and if you were leasing any part of that building and it wasn't
Other
100%,
purposes.
and it may be a fine line with the fire department, right? That might be, but he said that you wouldn't be eligible for a bond.
So I guess we'd have to
Get clarification.
get
That's
clarification.
gonna
and see.
be my question, was just about the possibility, oh, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Oh, sorry, but the possibility of using one of the bays for the fire department, or even Essex Rescue if they need an ambulance bay closer to, but if it would work to be for the fire department, I think that would be great. So that was
So,
all.
I mean, that was the 5,000 foot view looking down on, there is room for, some expansion, there. but could we grow the building even larger? I believe that's true. It all depends on how much you want to adjust the site. Because there's several acres there.
But I would guess this would take care of our needs for the foreseeable future.
I would say the next 25 to 50 years.
We're not gonna increase our roads, so
Right,
we're,
exactly.
I would
Not
think
gonna-
you'd max out at
Yeah.
equipment.
This will
here.
just get all of our equipment inside where it belongs and ready for an event.
So I'll make that question again. How much extra space do we have?
How much extra will we have?
If we used if every vehicle went into the
I'd want to
proposal?
look at that.
We could look at this thing over here maybe afterwards and,
Okay, let's do
I
it.
mean, we're just in the
We're in the early planning.
very early planning.
Yeah.
We need the site plan really to see how much room you can extend it out without, and
How much
site work.
excavation work, site work you're gonna do. Right.
The idea too is that where the salt shed is currently, the building would go to that point or further. So we would want to rebuild the salt shed over where all of our material is and then build it twice the size. And then it would be nice to get our year's supply of salt.
Oh, yeah.
So we,
Exactly.
well,
We could also look at it green update too. So,
Yeah. That's what I was
There
thinking
too,
too.
green update.
oh, right, bummer.
Exactly.
If we're gonna move on, Patty, I just have one request. Dave Cliff's been here for 20 minutes or so about would it be okay to move the Harvest Crossing since it's on at
Yes.
7:20?
Happy to do that.
And just take care of that quickly first.
Thanks, Russ.
thank you
And
guys.
then we'll move on to health insurance. Thanks, Russ.
Thank you very much.
Great, let's move to the crossing. TSF.
Yeah, so I put a memo in your packet and so we're working with the Harvest Crossing Group and Vermont Community Development to satisfy the award conditions of the implementation grant, which is $500,000. So as part of the award conditions, we're working through is this MP1 form. And it basically, we've signed this before for the planning grant, but it's been revised since then. So it's basically stating that we adopt these policies, and they're all federal policies. So that's one of the conditions before we actually get the physical grant. Anything to add to that, Dave, or that sums it up, doesn't it?
No, that's exactly what it's for, just to get the confirmation from the select board team that they understand that the grant is coming into its next steps, and we'll be working towards getting the agreement put together by Vermont Community Development Program, the final grant language, and then that'll be delivered to Brad, and then we'll have to go from there to get that established.
Yeah,
Okay,
we've
so
got a ways to go yet.
I'm gonna make a motion. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You make a motion that we can discuss. I'll make a motion that the town adopt and sign the municipal policies and codes as outlined in Form MP-1 revised May 2023. Is there a second?
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Discussion.
So based upon all of the policies that are in this document, how many I've already addressed in current policy that we have now? If they all are addressed, wonderful. If they're not addressed, then we would need to come up with creating policy, and is there a cost associated with those policies that we may not have? You know what I mean? Like if we have to create a policy, I don't know, one doesn't come to mind, but if we have to come into compliance with this, if there's a policy that we do not have on the books now and we have to, then is there a cost associated with, adopting that policy? Then we should know what that cost is going to, potentially what that's going to be.
So, yeah, well, anyway, I just kind of summarize this a little bit maybe and clear up a little confusion. So these are federal policies, right? And they have a citation with them. So basically, this document is the policy, and this act that you're doing or what you're considering would be adopting those policies, so that we wouldn't have to rewrite those. We're just, these are, before you can get any federal money for housing, and we've done this before, so we adopted these policies before. However, they've been revised since the last time so we didn't have to write our own policy. This document is the policy. Is that the way you understand it, Dave?
Yes, that is correct.
So,
So in essence, these policies become our policies.
Yes.
For this grant program, yes.
apparently I'm speaking a different language, and I certainly apologize.
No,
If we're adopting a policy, then shouldn't it be in our book of policies that we have? Like, if we have to have a drug-free workplace, policy
Specific for this project.
right, then shouldn't, I mean,
No, we're agreeing with the federal policy.
I understand all that.
It's not our policy.
We can add these to our policies, yes. To answer your question.
I guess I don't know. Like, I guess I don't know how to articulate this well enough, and maybe it's just me tonight, but if we have to adopt a policy because of this project, which I'm okay with, just like, so then don't we have to take that policy and then make it our own? Like, we're not referencing, we're then referencing documents that aren't in our policy. We're referencing a federal standard.
And now
But
that
for
we-
this project, it's only specific for this project.
So we're gonna adopt policy that's only for this project and this project only, and it's not gonna be relevant to any other projects or how the town does business.
See, I read it as this becomes our policy for how we function as a town select board.
That's kind of how I look.
I'm wondering, has the language of this policy changed with the current administration? Or is it just a development of the policy from when we started, when we first signed it?
I like,
Are we buying into new things that we may not agree with?
I don't know.
I mean, I read through these and I'm like, we should have all of these anyway. In reading
We want
one,
to deal with fair housing, right?
exactly.
Right.
Fair housing policy. It's all germane to the grant itself.
Yeah, they didn't look out of line to me, but I'm suspicious.
But I'm sure it wasn't.
No, I
for-
agree, Patty, that these all seem like there's nothing here that seems like something we wouldn't want to be a policy of our town or is not
If we-
already something that we address in some form. There was nothing that I felt like raised any red flags of like something we wouldn't feel comfortable with having as, a requirement for the purposes of the grant.
I'm just trying to, like, drug-free workplace act. If we promise to have a drug-free workplace.
We have all that in
Exactly.
we have all that in our personnel policy.
I bet a lot of this overlaps in.
It does, and I think Bob, that's kind of what Bob's trying to get at. It does overlap. I don't think we need to redo our policies to match this. We just need to say that for this project, we're following.
We don't have a use of excessive force policy because we don't have a law enforcement, component. We don't have our own law enforcement, but if we're in contract with the sheriff,
right?
does the sheriff, adopt and recognize this excessive force policy as this is written?
I think we should ask. I think we should build that into our.
I think we should ask Julia for one at Vermont Community Development. And then we could also ask the town's attorney. I'm sure the sheriff's department has an excessive force policy of their own, maybe even this one.
But now we could say, this municipality prohibits the use of
Right.
excessive force.
I would
It's law.
certainly say
Enforcement
that we would give them, hey, by the way, we just
Exactly.
adopted these policies for your information, right? So.
I can't imagine a world where they wouldn't, but that's why I'm just asking the question, like, we sure, like, everybody's on the same page. And if they're not on the same page, like, how do we?
I think we may be, and I appreciate all your concern, because I'm that way sometimes, but I think we may be overthinking it just a little bit. If you want more answers, I don't know, we're trying to, like I said, we're trying to tick off all the boxes, and we've signed this before.
But I mean, here's,
I could actually find, if you want me to find the old one.
like, there's a thing in here about texting while driving policy. An executive order.
But we don't have any phones that are owned by the town, so.
Yeah, but.
It's fine, but I can.
But I mean, we don't have a policy that prohibits you as an employee.
Now
we
you
do.
do. Now you do. If you adopt these, you do.
Yeah. It's not
And
a
it's
bad
also-
thing.
Right, that's what I'm like, that's what I'm saying, it's just like, well, then how do you know that as an employee, it's not in your handbook?
As soon as, well, right, we probably add it to our policy, but
As
it's
soon as any
specific.
employee starts driving.
It's specific to this
They come
project. As soon as
under
the
the
project's done,
umbrella.
these policies go away, unless you want to keep them. And
I've said what I need
I
to
can,
say.
let me see if I can find, if you want more clarification, I mean, we're
Do
just
we
trying
have
to,
time to do that?
well, we're not gonna get a grant
No,
award
no,
until we
no, let's just-
satisfy this thing, but,
I think it's two things. I think we accept this thing to get the grant award, and then the follow-up of it is, do we need to adopt these into our own policies also? So that we can proceed with the meeting tonight, do what we need to do so business can proceed.
Very good.
And also do our due diligence of making sure we're being consistent
We
across our
already have a
policies.
motion on the table.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too.
I
Thank you.
think it
Sean.
makes.
I have a question.
All right, so the motion and the second is already on the table. Are we good with discussion? Any more? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. So
And I
further-
have a document we'll pass around to sign. We'll make
So
sure we
add that
sign
to your
that.
greenhouse list.
Yes, I will.
Parking lot?
And I added the
Yes.
Essex thing. I think I say an old version. Essex Rescues on the greenhouse. Thanks,
And
Dave.
just-
I think we're all set.
Good. And just to give you a quick 30-second update, we're closing bids on the 30th of this month, and we'll be opening those bids on the 1st for the construction part of the process. And we'll be looking at who we're going to be hiring for that work. The exciting thing is that if you would like to please mark your calendar for June 12th for the groundbreaking ceremony for the project. It'll be around midday, and we'll be getting out official invitations to all of you, and would love to have you attend.
Excellent.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you,
now
Brad. Everybody, for
Thank
your
you.
attention in this.
Thanks, Dave.
let's move to health insurance.
Great, but just please remind me to have everybody sign that so we don't forget that, because,
This MP form, let me
yes,
start it.
Do you need me to come in and sign that on Monday, Brad?
that would be awesome, Maureen, if you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody's
Yep.
name.
Okay. So should I dive in on this, the employee benefits review?
Yes, please.
Or Jennifer, do you want to start, or?
Go ahead, Maureen.
Yeah,
Start.
Maureen, you
You
go.
wrote the document, and I thank you for that, because it really gave some clarity
Yeah, it was really good.
and organization to the whole thing. And I followed up with a productive meeting, but go
Okay.
ahead and start.
Okay. So Dan and Jennifer and I met separately. Dan and I separately met with Jennifer. Our schedules didn't work for the three of us to meet together. But we kind of wanted to keep this conversation moving on, thinking about how to reviewing the benefits package we offer to the town employees and thinking about doing an analysis around what other towns are offering, what level of benefits, and ways the town can reduce overall costs. And the primary driver is medical insurance. And as part of this, I think down the road, we should, as a board, discuss retirement plan options. I don't think that should be a part of this conversation, but VEMR's as the only option, I think, is not going to be the most flexible and sustainable for employees in the future. So I think we should just, maybe that should go in the greenhouse as like something we can bring up down the road to continue to invest in. So one of the things that really kind of blew my mind is the amount of increase that the town has spent since FY24 to FY27. There's been a roughly 42% increase in what the town has paid, and that's just a lot of money. One of the other things, though, that we talked about is the average age and length of service of our employees means that there's a high likelihood of turnover in these in several of the positions likely to be coming in the next 5 to 10 or less years. And so I think now is probably the time to make these changes. We think the salaries that are offered are competitive and in line with what other people are offering. So I don't think we need to worry about the salaries. So when we think about what the potential changes are, we looked at, and again, huge thanks to Jennifer. She was super helpful in having pulled together a lot of this information in a way that was ready for us to then dive into. And just another reason that we were very lucky to have Jennifer on staff. So thanks.
Thanks.
But we looked at the benefit packages offered by lots of municipalities across the region and really got the most up-to-date and paid specific attention to Cambridge, Westford, and Jericho. And lots of towns are making changes in a variety of levels, whether it's increasing employee contributions, changing to HRA or HSA setups, what's offered to employees versus their spouses and dependents, and then changes to the payments in lieu of insurance amounts. So I think for the committee to move forward, I think it's important for us to have a kind of consensus from the board on how we want to prioritize the types of changes we make recommendations to. And I think first is, I think my personal view is I don't think we want to make changes to what the benefits packages for current employees, but would apply to any new employees hired by the town. I think we are extremely lucky with the employees that we have and the length of service they have. And I think there's also an anticipating the turnover. I think it would be sort of cutting off our nose, I think, to spite our face if we made changes for current employees. But I think we should have the consensus of the board on that topic. But overall, providing an attractive and competitive salary and benefits package is important for recruiting and retaining employees. I think that's all of our goals and objectives, but we want to clarify that. And finally, including dependents. Some towns have stopped providing coverage for spouses or dependents, which certainly is a way to cut costs, but I don't think that is the direction we as a town should want to go in. I think we want to encourage families and employees with families to want to be employed by our town and want to live in our town or stay in the area. But I think covering those 3 points and getting consensus on the direction from that will then help inform the board on the models that we then undertake to recommend. So I think that kind of runs through. And Jennifer, or Dan, is there anything else you guys want to add to the overview here?
Yeah, I believe that there's some low-hanging fruit that we can look at, both for existing employees, but mainly for a policy that would be pretty thorough and complete for anybody new coming on. That would be very clear, but we don't want to disadvantage, one employee over another. And in some ways, the in lieu of structure does disadvantage. It makes it different for employees. And if there's a way that we can kind of blend that a little bit, we will. And that's maybe one of the low-hanging fruits that we can take a look at.
Yeah, and then the only other low-hanging fruit, Maureen, that Dan and I talked about, and then also you and I talked about it, but we didn't go into any specifics in this document because this document's more about getting the consensus of the board about the goals. So then the committee can go forward and come up with some different scenarios. But one of the other things that that we talked about that that would change for existing employees, and it would change regardless of whether we were having a committee or not, is each year when I sit down with our benefits aperture, the brokers that we use, we talk about things like, how are we funding the HRA? And one of the things that many towns are doing is they're reducing that HRA maximum. And the town of Underhill does 100% out of pocket and deductible, which as we've gone to a high deductible, that ends up being, the ceiling gets higher and higher. So one way that a lot of towns are is capping that and saying up to whatever the individual maximum is, and not the whole family. And that's something that I would be presenting to you guys anyway. So that's something that, we're trying to look at things that we can save on immediately. And then also, what are the things that we can save on as we're looking at hiring new people that might be grandfathered in, if that's what you choose to do for existing employees. So. Thoughts from the board?
So I don't know if I see the smoke and I don't know if I see the fire. And I don't feel the fire. I don't know that, this system, although it costs money, you need to invest and keep up with, and I appreciate, I should preface this by saying, I appreciate all the hard work that you guys have put into this. I don't see the smoke and I don't feel the fire when it comes to the benefits. I don't think that this is something that we should be, I think it's important to look at it, but I don't want to get into a system where we have, a benefits package for existing employees and something that's going to be totally different for new employees coming through the door.
Not totally different.
Well, it will be different. And it will be, in my opinion, it will be a spiral effect. That once you start at one, then it's going to lead to two, and it's going to lead to three, and then eventually you're going to be converting from the existing employees over to the new employees, because you're going to get to a point where the scale will dip, where you're only going to have so many employees that, were existing, and some board in the future is going to say, well, it's only 2 or 3 of them, and that's the way we're doing it. I don't like the feel of it. I think that there's other things that we can save money on. I'm not sold as far as how much money we're really saving by doing this. And I think it starts to present an us versus them. And I don't like that. I think that if we're going to have a benefits package for our employees, that it's universal for everybody, and we don't have to get into this.
We need to address the rising costs of healthcare somehow, and the rising cost of premiums. That is not going to reverse. And if we don't take a look at options, which is what we're doing, we're not proposing a final document at this point. If we don't look at options as to how we can address it, then it's just a runaway train. And I understand the need to be competitive, but we might be taking ourselves out of other ways that we are non-competitive.
And Bob, I think I hear the concern. There's some areas around, Jennifer and I looked at some things where like, oh, if you eliminate one benefit or something that seems like it might make a difference, the actual cost impact to the bottom line for some changes is extremely minimal. So then it wouldn't make sense to make those changes for the sake of changes. And right, like we would only want to make changes to benefits in a way that is, right, like wouldn't change the value that the employees get, but would, so I think that there is a level of sensitivity that would have to go into this kind of work. But I do think there is a level of fire there in terms, like there is, at the last town meeting, there was quite a bit of discussion around people feeling concerns around this, the growing tax burden of of this line item. And, you know, a 42% increase in 3 fiscal years is significant. So I guess that's, again, as Dan said, it's just options at this point to explore. No, you know, we're not committing to anything at this point.
Well, I certainly understand that there were some people that were concerned about that. I certainly did not get the impression it was the majority. I felt it was an extreme minority of the residents that were there. It was an extreme minority of the residents that were even participating in town meeting to begin with. I respectfully, I appreciate all the hard work that's put into this. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in making changes at this time. I mean, I'm just fundamentally, I'm not there as far as wanting to, I want to keep what we have now, and I want to preserve that going now. And if there's other things that we can save money on, then I'm all for looking at that. But this is not an area that I really feel that we should be, I don't know. I don't think that this is an area that we should be monkeying with too much, if at all. Sorry. I mean, that's just the way I feel about it.
So for the committee, it sounds like we're not going to have consensus on that, but I think you still, as a committee, should do the work and present options so that we can take a look at it. I think it's our fiduciary responsibility of the taxpayers.
What kind of consensus do we or do we not have? We have one person who says he's not interested.
We have one person who thinks we shouldn't be tampering at all with the benefits. I think having a look, and I like the idea of applying, if we do anything. I'm not saying I'm already at the point of saying we should reduce benefits, but if we do anything, doing it to new employees is the much easier way, more palatable way to introduce that to an organization. So I'm on board with what you've done for 1, 2, and 3 for that matter. But I do think we should continue to work and present some options.
Yeah.
Whether we do anything with it or not, it's a whole different story. But part of me agrees with Bob. It's like a race to the bottom to get to the, you know,
But
spiral.
if you don't try to at least explore it,
We have to
you're not
try.
gonna know.
Exactly.
So I think it's a, and I'm cutting my nose to spite my face here, but I think it's a healthy exercise to do to see if it is significant.
Yeah.
We can come to this, like, here's like a conclusion we can come to. We've done all this work. We can do 10% on healthcare, 10% on all the other benefits, and we're gonna save $20,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And that's what it came out to
And then
be.
you'll
We
have
as a
gone-
board
yeah.
said, no, thank you.
Yes.
Right.
But at least.
So we did the work, we did the analysis, and 20,000 was
Go through the motions.
insignificant compared to employee retention and blah, blah, blah. But we have to go through that work to say, I think that's what we're gonna come up with. It's like a $20,000 figure.
Well, you
And
could
in
be.
addition to town meeting, there was also a lot of conversation on Front Porch Forum about it as well. I think the town wants us to take a careful look at this.
And then we can report back that here's
We
the potential savings, and we just, you know, whatever we end up deciding, whether we do go for it or not, we are educated in how we can explain it.
Okay. And I think this is a really important conversation to have, and to have these varying perspectives on it. I think it's really helpful and healthy for the board to be considering these things from the different perspectives. What we have talked about doing moving forward is coming up with some different scenarios of like, okay, hypothetical new employee at X salary, here are some different like potential options for what that might look like. And so I think Jennifer and Dan and I can kind of work up some different potential scenarios that then would like run through the numbers of how that would impact the budget and what that would look like. That then there's some actual numbers to put to these the ideas, big picture.
Excellent. Go forth and have fun.
All right.
Okay, anything else on the Health Insurance Committee, Benefits Committee?
Not for me.
Okay, all right, let's move to Green Lantern Solar. And the request for ACH.
So I'd like to just before we talk about the Green Lantern Solar, it is about Green Lantern Solar, but just from a clarifying perspective, we have several relationships with the company, which actually I think now has been bought out and is called Dispatch or something else. But we have the solar lease up on Beartown Road where we have a lease for that, the property and the solar field that's up there. That is a lease agreement that we have. So that is separate from these two contracts that we entered into, which are 20-year contracts. One is with OP Solar and one is Milton McMullen. Those are tied to, I don't know which is which. I think OP Solar is the garage, which is Vermont Electric.
McMullen is, it doesn't matter. One's
And one's Green
Vermont
Mountain
Electric.
Power. So basically we have solar credits associated with Town Hall, which is attached to one solar field called Milton McMullen, and the other one is the town garage, which has got the relationship with OP Solar. Those have nothing to do with this one, so I just wanted to keep that
Just
clear.
so happens,
They happen at the same
Green
time.
Lantern
Manages.
both.
Yeah.
So I might have led you to believe it was
Okay.
connected. It's not.
They're not.
Okay.
So basically, all they were requesting, and I think we're gonna start seeing this more, because mailing checks is becoming very dangerous, is that a lot of businesses are going towards ACH payment. I still have to physically enter the invoice and physically hit a button to pay it, and it still ends up on the warrant. It's just, instead of mailing a check, it goes to their bank account. So it's an electronic fund transfer. It's the same way we pay our 941 taxes. It's the same way we pay our withholding taxes. It's the same way every month I pay the supplemental retirement that I pay for some of our employees. So that's the only thing. It's just a change in the way we pay them. So I just want to make that clear.
I think we were clear. I guess my concern that I have is that given what has just happened to the Chittenden County Solid Waste District with their $3 million oops, I know we've had oopses here where things have been paid that they shouldn't have been paid electronically, that I'm concerned that we are going to be in a similar type of situation where we don't have sufficient safeguards. And I don't necessarily buy into that. It's more of a problem for them because they don't have somebody to go pick up the check in the mailbox, was the explanation that I believe that I took from that. It's just like, that's not my problem, that's their problem. And I don't know why we should have to change our methodology on how we pay bills because they don't have someone, or they don't want to pay somebody to go to a mailbox and retrieve their mail. That's the way we do business. There's nothing specified in the contract that says we have to do this ACH. I think there's a potential for fraud because it's an electronic transfer that I don't see that. I see more of a risk with doing something like that. So I would rather not do that. And if we are going to go down this road, then I think we ought to have real clear policy and direction to prevent what happened with Chittenden Solid Waste from happening here. But we probably should do that anyway. We should probably, really look at, what processes we should have in place to make sure that we do not get.
I don't think you can compare Chittenden Solid Waste District to this situation, in my opinion. Jennifer's going to get an invoice, like she always does, from these folks
Every month.
every month, and then it's going to say you owe $50. It's generally under $100, I think.
So
right?
Brad, I appreciate your input, but how does she get that invoice? Does she get that in the mail or does she get that by an email?
It's emailed from the same.
So how do we know that it wasn't email from the actual company or it was from somebody else offshore?
Because it
and how-
comes
and
from
how-
her email.
But how do you know that it's coming from that it wasn't off by one character? You know what I mean? On the email
And
address.
it goes to
The
the
bank-
same bank.
It goes to the same
Same
bank
bank.
that's owned
And
by
that's,
them
oh, sorry.
every month.
So
I was just
you-
saying a wire transfer and an ACH are much, and I think if a vendor was requesting that we pay via wire transfer, I would have a lot more concern because that each one has to have, be verified, and it's not, the destination is not the same every time. But with an ACH, there's no changing it once it's set up, and once it's, once your connection is structured, then it's not, I think it is less of a risk. I appreciate, Jennifer, you in the packet, you sent some information about the increased risks of paper checks. And I don't think that it's an increased risk to the town to do the ACH versus paper checks. I think it's actually probably a decrease in risk.
I mean, how many people pay their electric bill online? Do you send a check to the electric company, or do you pay it online?
So,
Just asking.
so do I have to answer that?
No, I guess you don't. I'm just saying, no, you don't. I'm just, it's the same thing.
Thank you, Brad.
Oh, okay.
With your line of thinking, we should cancel all the other ACH.
It's a requirement. The feds won't take a check in the mail. The IRS, it's like, and that's thousands. I send that check every 2 weeks for our 941 taxes, the same kind of thing.
Right.
And it's.
I'm certainly not trying to paint the picture that we do away with ACH payments. What I guess I'm trying to convey is that, is there policy that we should be looking at so that we do not become subject to the same type of fraud that happened with other municipal bodies that are within that we're dealing with, because those are very bright and intelligent people as well. And
what is the protocol? And I think it's going to be the first time that you pay is where the risk is.
Right.
Because that's what happened to Chittenden Solid Waste District. They didn't have a path. They were brand new, starting to make payments. It's the first time you pay. And once you establish that payment stream and you've got verification that, yep, my account's been paid, you're good to go. It's the first time.
Yeah. And I think
to that end, the auditor's recommendation was, that the town undertake a level of fraud risk training. I think that's a great recommendation that I think anybody who touches money for the town should participate in. And, even maybe we as select board also, in terms of payment confidence, I think that level of training is probably the best way to make sure that what happened to the Chittenden County solid waste does not happen to us.
I agree 100%. I have to tell you a quick anecdote because it was really humorous in the office the other day. We were pushing to get our bond money, our $878,000 as soon as possible so that we could be earning interest on it for the next few months and have extra funds for the town of Underhill in our budget, because why not? And they have a verification process at the Vermont Bond Bank. And they called up and first they emailed and they said, can you please give us your bank account information? And it was some email from some bank that and it was Sherry dealing with it as our town treasurer and town clerk. And Sherry said, no, I'm not going to give you our bank account information. So she said, you need to call me on the phone. So Sherry had this back and forth with this woman that if you had just come in here and listened to it, you would have been like, oh my God, she's really mean. But she called this woman on the carpet. She said, no, if you don't have, because I had already filled out the information. So Sherry's like, no, if this is the town of Underhill and if you need to call me up and you tell me the numbers that you have. And so Sherry has gone through this training.
Oh, interesting.
So she knew. And I was blown away at the way Sherry did this, because she got to the point where she knew without any question that this person was calling from whatever the bank was that was sending us $878,000. Because, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is, right? So anyway, yes, I think I love the idea of fraud training. And I also think it would be worthwhile for me to check in with VLCT about electronic fund policies, because I'm sure that this is happening to other towns as well. That, we've had residents' tax checks get, I forget what they call it. There's a term. It's not erased, but where somebody takes it and changes steals the envelope, the checks out of the envelopes and changes the information. And when I was at the bank, they told me that that's becoming scrubbing it, I think they call it, or something. is becoming very a regular occurrence. So I think both of those would be important.
What is the appetite of this board to approve this ACH for, I don't know, who do we call it now, Green Lantern? It's not Green Lantern.
Dispatch, I think it is.
For the solar project.
I would be happy to move in that direction.
Also,
Mhm.
Are you okay, Bron?
I'm fine, but I'm not voting for it, not until we have policies in place.
I would like to see a policy, but given this transaction is small and it's an existing bank transfer number, you have all the numbers. I'm in support of moving sooner than later.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion that we authorize the ACH transfer process for this solar company.
OP Solar and
OP
Milton
Solar.
McMullen.
Thank you, as noted. Is there a second?
second.
Thank you, Shara. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. We'll do roll call.
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
Patty Richards, aye.
Shara Tool, aye.
Maureen Collins, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Maureen.
Maureen Collins Gold, aye.
Okay, we have 4 ayes and 1 nay. It passes 4-1. Okay. All right, we're now done with all your items, correct? No, we're
No.
not. No, outstanding items. We do have to get to liquor control. We gotta have a beer. We have to do the review of the bridge theme, RFP, yes.
We don't have to. I mean, we don't have to do any of these things, really.
We do have to do the liquor control.
You have to do the look.
Okay, all right, let's finish with Jennifer and capital.
So was several items that were outstanding when winter came upon us. And I just wanted to see if you wanted to proceed with completing these projects in this fiscal year. So Nexus Properties had done all the work here and at the post office. So there were several things that didn't get finished because of the weather. And you can see just the lattice and then the balusters. I spelled baluster wrong. I apologize. I'm not even sure how it's spelled, but the balusters around the post office, a couple of those needed to be repaired. So that was number one, is whether we can authorize Nexus to complete that. And then the other.
For $800?
Yeah, estimated at 800. We're already a little bit over it. We have $400 left in the post office budget. And the estimated cost is 8. So it would go over a little bit on that one. The gazebo, there's a couple of things in order to bring that up to ADA compliance. The gazebo was never in the budget to begin with because it was this gift from the Moore family. But in accepting that gift, perhaps we have accepted some additional expenses. So you can see what the estimated costs are on that.
What do we have left in contingency for select board?
So in the contingency for select board, I'm glad you asked. I wrote that down. You have spent $1,500 and you have $12,000.
Okay.
So you have more than enough money, and then we only have 2 months left to use that to complete that project. And then the other one is the grading work around the gazebo. And I wrote this down, and it wasn't meant to be anything negative to the road crew, but we could save some money on this if we have the road crew at least bring the materials to us. I don't know if this is in their wheelhouse to do the work or not, but at least bring the materials here, the topsoil or whatever that they need in order to do that. Might save us some money in them having to bring their equipment and do that. So, and then the last item is that in order for us to make an assessment of the great room and to do anything in the great room, we need to know. I remember I had contacted 12 different companies to take a look at it. Nobody wanted to touch it because nobody knew what the status of the structure of the floor was. So what they all proposed is let's figure out how to make that floor, let's know that that floor is stable, because without a stable floor, you really can't build anything or do anything. We've stopped renting out that room because it's not safe. So, so the proposal was to have Seth cut approximately 4 foot by 4 foot slice in the floor so that they could see what the structure is of the floor joist.
Subfloor, I want to know
Subfloor.
what's under there for subfloor, how many layers of subfloor.
And understand.
What supports it?
Yeah, so that was the other piece. So the question I have is, which of these do you want to complete? And if you want to do any kind of a transfer, then we would do that.
Okay. Let's start from the top with the lattice for the post office, since we have that already in, we have a line item for that budgeted.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna make the motion to approve $800 for the remaining repairs, the baluster and railing. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, amend that we also want to put the post office back the way it was and include the shutters that were not put back on.
Thank you for that amendment. I think that's a friendly amendment.
Yeah, some of them are, a lot of them are really rotted. I did go over, I saved everything. So we had the hardware and everything. And then when I went over to put them over where at the town garage, the little spot under cover, I did notice that there were some old ones from this building. I would not recommend putting them on this building, but, because they're huge and many of them were rotted, but there were some small ones. So we may be able to, they're going to have to be restored. You can't, we can't just throw them back up.
Can I ask why? Why do you want shutters on it?
To put it back the way it was,
Why?
because it's historically significant.
But are the shutters historically significant? Shutters are, I don't know that they are.
Can you look into the shutters?
Yes, I can do an inventory of the shutters.
They're not even functional. Shutters, right. And if they're rotten,
I
they're
can
actually
take a
not.
look and do an
Look back at that and then we'll move on to 800 for the
When did they
baluster.
become decoration?
True.
Well,
Wow.
I think those would have to be looked at separately because it might be a much
I'll
more
do an
additional
inventory of
cost.
what we
Can
got.
you take, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll come back to that for the next meeting, but at least do the balusters and the railing for $800. Sounds like. Game show. Okay, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
Patty Richards, aye.
Charlotte Rural, aye.
Bob Stone, nay.
Maureen
Maureen?
Collins Cove, aye.
Okay, we have 4-1 in favor, so that motion passes.
Okay.
I'm gonna take 2 and 3 together. This is work on the gazebo. And we have a rough estimate of $800 for the handicap ramp and another $950 for the groundwork. I would like to get this finished so that that thing can be used. I'm gonna make a motion that we approve out of the select board contingency, up to $2,500 for the remaining work to get the gazebo finished. And put Brad and Jennifer on coordinating that work, whether it's our staff or not, whether it's hired out staff or our staff, just let's get it done. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. We're gonna do roll call.
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
Patty Richards, aye.
Charlotte Rural, aye.
Bob Stone, abstain.
Maureen?
Maureen Collins Cove, aye.
Okay, the motion passes 4-0-1. Next is the item 4, which is to do work in the town hall great room, to cut a roughly 4x4 hole in the floor for $400. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
I would recommend that you not make the cut in a high traffic area, that you would put it close to a wall that is not a high traffic area so that it doesn't disrupt, like if we have voting or anything like that going forward, that doesn't commit a trip hazard or something like that with that floor,
Makes total sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
meaning this far wall, along that far.
That's what he was looking at, that far corner.
Well, there's a spot where the whole place is a trip hazard, to be honest with you. But, yeah,
It's a disaster.
Well,
I guess I'll just shut up and I'll just let you talk, Brad.
no, I understand there is that end, and that's where we're gonna do it. So we had picked out a spot. I thought it was good.
Okay, any more discussion? Remove us. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yep, I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, roll call.
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
Patty Richards, aye.
Charlotte Rowe, aye.
Bob Stone abstain.
Maureen?
Maureen Collins Gold, aye.
Okay, passes 4-0 with one abstention. Okay. Let's now move to. liquor
I'll get the
control.
budget transfer request completed and have one of you sign it, I guess.
Okay.
I'll let you know on that.
Okay. I move to open the Board of Liquor Control in order to review liquor and tobacco licenses. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Shara. Discussion? Night, Russ. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. We have two in front of us. One is the Jacobs Family Market and the other is Wells, sorry. No, neither one of these locations has had a violation, so this is a typical thing that we do every year. So I move to approve the second-class liquor and tobacco license for Wells Corner Market and Jacobs Family Market. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Shara. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0.
I think Patty or Sherry just asked if you'd sign.
Do we all need to sign?
No, just, it was on her memo. There was
Just the first
Yeah.
place.
yeah, is it in there?
Yeah, yeah.
If you could just sign it, please. Like she put you a little spot.
Okay, I move to adjourn the Board of Liquor Control and continue with a regular select board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Shara. All those in favor, or any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. We are back in regular select board meeting material. Okay, it is 8:17. What I'd like to do is table anything that we can so that we can conclude the meeting. I don't like to go past 2 hours. We're already past 2 hours. Can the bridge wait?
Yeah, well, it's just an RFP. I'd like to get it out, and if anybody had anything they didn't like about it, it would be nice to get it out because it's something
Yeah,
very few people do.
Yeah, I didn't see any issues with it, so why don't we take it up? Can we table the sidewalk
Sure.
update for the next meeting? I
Absolutely,
don't
yeah.
see anybody left on public session anyway, so.
Yeah, the only caveat with the sidewalk is if we did want to pursue a grant, the grant's due June 12th. And so, well, we take it up next time.
All right, let's take the sidewalk up next time. All right, let's do the bridge review. RFP. So in our packet,
It's in your packet. So as you know, we budgeted this for next fiscal year. It's in the capital line. So the bridge was repaired back in 2020, I think. We extended the deck on that side, just low stream side, extended the deck so the beam wasn't exposed to salt. So now it's not exposed to salt, but we want to just stop the beam from rusting any further. So you can see it's really rusted. So the idea would be to, a professional will come out, they net the whole place, per environmental standards.
Mhm.
Scrape off all that rust, pressure wash it, and then coat it with an epoxy type, some sort of paint, and this thermal rust. Then basically that just stops it from rusting any further. 50 years from now, we'd probably, or 20 years from now, we'd want to sandblast all the beams.
Mhm.
The other beams are in great shape, paint wise.
I'm
So
gonna make a motion that we move forward with the Town of Underhill, Vermont Bridge 8 beam maintenance invitation to bid as provided in our packet. Is there a second? Thank you.
I'll second.
Very good. Second by Bob already. Any discussion?
very possible we may not get a bid. So
I thought that there was one company that specialized in this.
they do. When he looked at it, he kind of gave us a ballpark.
Okay, but we still have to put it to bid,
We have to put it in
and that company is going
on the
to
list,
say,
yes. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the paper like we always do, and then reach out to, I think Mike gave me three different names.
do the other companies do the same thing that we already vetted with this one?
Yes, they all do that same
Okay.
project.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. All right, that moves us to closing public comment. Is anybody left in virtual land?
See anyone?
Nobody's here, so we're done with public comment. Time to review and approve warrants. You make a motion that we approve the payroll warrants dated April 23rd, 2026, in the amount of $17,381. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. I make a motion to approve the AP warrants for April 20th to April 23rd, in the amount of $78,289.69. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 9th, 2026. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0.
This one to you.
Okay, that's it. Member item correspondence and announcements and next regular scheduled meeting. Do you have any, Brad?
No, do you want to just a quick green update thing?
Yes. Just a reminder, we have Green Up Day coming up May 2nd. Anybody that can attend, head over to the garage. I do have member correspondence. Carl Reamer sent an email requesting an update on litigation involving Cranebrook Trail. I asked Brad to respond. He did a great summary email. And Carl also asked about the confusing signs and where people could go and not. Thank you, Brad, for doing that summary email. I received another correspondence from Zach Cummings, campaign manager for Bram Krennickfeld, running for state's attorney, requested meeting of all of us if any of us are interested, relative to how is the criminal system affecting the town of Underhill. I'm not planning to respond. I think we are all copied on that email. That's the member correspondence that I have to report. I would like to go into executive session briefly.
Before we do that, in the email that was sent from the townsperson, the response be sent to us?
Absolutely. Okay, under 1 VSA section 313A1A to discuss contract negotiation through premature general public knowledge would place the public body at a disadvantage. I would like to go into executive session for that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
For executive session, should I FaceTime or call one of you to do it? I don't remember the right way to do it from when I'm attending virtually.
That would probably be best, Maureen.
Okay.
if-
To call?
Just a call.
Okay.
Okay.
They're on speaker.
Who do you want to call?
I'll just call you, Patty.
Okay, you have my number?
That's okay. I think so. If not, I know I have Bob's because I think I have called you in the past, Bob, for meetings.
Okay,
I think I do.
great.
Oh yeah, I've got you, Patty.
Okay,
Okay.
can you stay right here?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, once you make the motion, or did,
Oh.
We made the motion, but then we didn't vote. That was the discussion. Sorry.
Yeah, do this all the time. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of going into executive session, please say aye.
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 Hi.
Any opposed? The ayes carry.
it's 8:25.
Okay, I make a motion, we exit executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of exiting executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. The only action taken in executive session is to have Brad continue to work on the sheriff's contract. No other action was taken other than that. With that, we need a motion to adjourn. Sure.
That's the way it is. I move we adjourn.
Second, any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed? The ayes carry 5-0. Thank you, everybody.